They told you you're broke. They looked at your bank account, your clothes, the neighborhood you live in. They judged your worth by numbers, digits on a screen, dollars in your wallet, zeros that don't multiply. But let me tell you something that shatters that illusion. You're not broke. You're just mentally poor. Because poverty isn't first a lack of money. It's a lack of vision. It's a starvation of belief. It's a bankruptcy of discipline. And until you understand that, you will continue to live as a prisoner of your own mind, chained not by circumstance, but by the thoughts you feed it every single day. You think you need a raise. No. You need to raise your standards. You need to raise your thoughts. You need to raise the intensity of your belief until it drowns out the noise of doubt. What's the difference between the person living paycheck to paycheck and the one building a fortune? It's not luck. It's not intelligence. It's inner conditioning. It's the willingness to sit in silence, stare at a blank wall, and program the subconscious with a new story. I was not born to survive. I was born to conquer. You can't plant weeds in your mind and expect roses to bloom in your life. And yet, every morning, people wake up and water their fears. They speak poverty over their life before their feet even hit the floor. I can't afford that. I'm not good with money. People like me don't get rich. Every word you speak is a spell you cast on your own future. And most people are cursing themselves without even knowing it. Let me ask you, how many hours have you spent learning how to earn? How many days have you invested studying the language of wealth? You binge Netflix, scroll Instagram, drown in distractions. But you won't give 10 minutes to your financial literacy. You'll memorize movie lines, but not the principles that could free your family for generations. That's not being broke. That's being mentally bankrupt. The richest man in the room is not the one wearing a Rolex. It's the one who wakes up every morning with a fire in his soul and a blueprint in his hands. He might be sleeping on a mattress on the floor today. But his thoughts are made of gold. And gold always finds a way to rise. You want more? Then stop blaming the economy and start building your internal economy. Start feeding your mind what it starved for: vision, strategy, clarity. Because the mind is a magnet. Whatever you hold in it long enough, you attract. Andrew Carnegie, one of the richest men who ever lived, said the secret was this: you become what you think about. Not sometimes. Always. So if your dominant thought is lack, guess what you multiply? If your dominant thought is fear, guess what you attract? But if your dominant thought becomes abundance, if your dominant thought becomes, I deserve more because I am becoming more, then the universe starts to bend in your direction. That's not mysticism. That's mental cause and effect. And every successful man and woman who ever rose from the ashes knew it. They weren't just working hard. They were thinking differently. You think success is about hustle? Work ethic is only one gear in the machine. You can swing the hammer all day, but if you're building the wrong house, you're still going to end up homeless in your purpose. It starts in the invisible. The mind is the blueprint. And if your blueprint is broken, if it's filled with limitations, inherited beliefs, scarcity thinking, then no matter how hard you work, your results will collapse like a house of cards. Most people are not lazy. They're just misdirected. But let me tell you this. If the thoughts that dominate your mind aren't your own, then neither will be the life you live. You want to escape poverty? Then audit every belief you have about money. Where did it come from? Who planted it? Does it serve your vision, or does it sabotage it? Did someone tell you that money is evil? That rich people are greedy? That success comes at the cost of family, health, or values? Then that belief is your ceiling. And you will never out-earn your identity. Until you become the kind of person who sees wealth as a tool for impact. As a symbol of expansion. As a spiritual responsibility to live fully. You will unconsciously repel everything you claim to desire. There's a reason why people win the lottery and lose it all. Because the mind still thinks small. Still identifies as broke. And the mind always brings the external world back into alignment with its internal image. You don't just need more money. You need a new identity. You need to stop asking, "How do I get rich?" and start asking, "Who must I become to attract wealth as a natural result of who I am?" Because when you become valuable, you attract value. When you become disciplined, you attract opportunities that reward discipline. When you become intentional, you magnetize people, places, and decisions that align with your vision. That's not magic. That's alignment. It's not enough to want more. Desire without transformation is frustration. You can dream about millions while waking up to the same habits that are keeping you mentally poor. The world doesn't give you what you want. It mirrors what you are. You can scream affirmations all day. But if your actions contradict them, your results will obey your actions. You say you want success, but what are you sacrificing for it? You say you want freedom, but are you still enslaved to distractions? You say you want change, but are you still defending your old habits like they're sacred? The mentally wealthy person doesn't just think big. They live big, even in small spaces. They show up with presence, intensity, and conviction long before the world applauds. They wake up early not because they have to, but because the fire inside won't let them sleep. And when they're broke on paper, they still speak the language of kings. That's the real shift. That's the revolution. When the poverty leaves your mind before it ever leaves your wallet. And when that shift happens, when you stop playing victim to your past, your upbringing, your circumstances, you become dangerous. Because now, nobody can put you in a box. You've already broken out of the mental prison. Now, you're sculpting a new reality, thought by thought, day by day, brick by brick. This is the moment most people miss. They wait for proof before they believe. They want the money to believe they're rich. They want the success to believe they're worthy. They want the results to believe in their power. But that's not how it works. You believe first. You embody first. You think, feel, act, and speak like the person who already has it long before anyone claps for you. And then, slowly, the world rearranges itself around your new standard. Because life doesn't respond to wishes. It responds to identity. If you want the world to see your worth, you better start acting like you've already seen it yourself. You walk like you're defeated. You talk like you're uncertain. You move through life like you're hoping not to be noticed. But understand this, the universe responds to conviction. Not noise. Not neediness. Not desperation. But bold, unshakable conviction. Think about the greats. Walt Disney pitched a mouse to bankers who laughed in his face. They said it would never work. That no one wanted a cartoon theme park. That he was delusional. And maybe he was. But that delusion became Disneyland. That insanity became an empire. He saw what they couldn't because he trained his mind to serve vision, not logic, not fear, not comfort. And that's the exact skill most people never develop. They let the world shape their beliefs. They let rejection write their story. They let fear set the thermostat for their ambition. But not the mentally wealthy. No, they wake up and choose vision, daily. They choose the hard thing. They choose the disciplined thing. They choose the road most people fear, because that road leads to self-respect, and that is the foundation of all wealth. Not cars. Not cash. Not clout. Self-respect. The quiet, immovable understanding that I did not come this far to live like I was never born to lead. Because that's what's really at stake. Not just your income. Not just your bills. But your becoming. When you settle for scraps, you're teaching your soul to accept crumbs. And the more you tolerate mediocrity, the more allergic you become to excellence. Your spirit was not designed to play small. You feel restless because you're starving in a life too small for your calling. You know you're capable of more. You felt it in your bones at night when no one's watching. That vision that keeps haunting you? It's not random. It's a preview of what's possible if you stop choosing excuses and start choosing expansion. And expansion doesn't come from waiting. It comes from war. They're just waiting for you to stop protecting your limitations and start protecting your potential. That's where the mental wealth begins. Not in affirmations. Not in quick fixes. But in confrontation. Look yourself in the mirror and ask, what habits are making me poor? What thoughts are draining my power? What people are keeping me small? And then burn the bridges. Not out of anger, but out of reverence for who you're becoming. Because if you don't destroy the old, the new can't be born. You can't keep thinking like a slave and expect to live like a king. You can't keep spending like a victim and expect to grow like a leader. You can't keep waking up reactive and expect to build an intentional life. Nothing changes until you do. So build rituals that reflect your future, not your past. Speak words that match your destiny, not your history. Surround yourself with people who challenge your limits, not coddle your wounds. You say you're broke? Then study wealth like your life depends on it, because it does. Read. Invest. Learn. Sacrifice now so your future self doesn't starve. You don't need more entertainment. You need more education. Not the kind they give you in classrooms, the kind that transforms you from the inside out. Because here's the secret no one wants to tell you. The gap between you and the life you want is not luck, is not talent, is not access. It's mental alignment. And the moment you correct your mental poverty, everything else follows. Let this truth settle deep in your chest. You're not chasing success. You're remembering who you were before the world convinced you to settle. You didn't come here to blend in. You didn't come here to shrink so others could feel tall. You came here to build, to lead, to rise. But first, you must evict the voice that says, you're not enough. That voice isn't yours. It was planted by a teacher who didn't see you, by a parent who spoke from fear, by a system that profits from your confusion. It was planted to keep you docile, to keep you obedient, to make you doubt yourself just enough to never disrupt the status quo. But you weren't born for a status quo. You were born to flip tables, to question everything, to take the pen and write a new chapter with ink made of sweat, courage, and conviction. And that starts by refusing to play poor. Poor in spirit. Poor in thought. Poor in expectation. Because the greatest poverty is not material. It's the poverty of imagination. When you can no longer see a different future, you begin to accept the present as permanent. And that's where most people die. Long before their heart stops beating. They die in routine. In comfort. In scrolling and waiting and hoping and never deciding. But not you. Not anymore. Today, something breaks. Not you, but the illusion. The illusion that you need permission. That you need perfect timing. That you need someone to pick you. Let me make this clear. No one is coming to save you. And that's the best news you'll ever hear. Because the day you stop waiting to be saved is the day you become dangerous. The day you reclaim your authority. The day you become the architect, the builder, and the protector of your vision. The day you stop asking, can I, and start declaring, watch me. That's when the mental poverty begins to crumble. Because now you're living like the rich. Not the ones with yachts and jets. But the ones with clarity, courage, and the guts to walk alone. That's true wealth. A spirit that doesn't bend. A mind that won't break. A heart that burns so bright it lights the way for others. And here's the irony. Once you become that, the money comes. Because money is a byproduct of value. And the most valuable thing you can ever offer this world is a fully awakened version of you. Not the version that plays it safe. Not the version that fears failure. But the version who shows up even when it hurts. Who takes action even when uncertain. Who builds momentum even in the dark. You're not broke. You're just not in alignment with your higher self yet. But you can change that. Not tomorrow. Not next month. Right now. You do it by raising the thermostat on your life. By saying, "This is my new minimum. This is how early I rise. This is how hard I train. This is how intentionally I spend my time. This is how powerfully I speak to myself. This is the level I live at from now on." And when your standards rise, your results chase to catch up. Because the world reflects what you tolerate. And when you stop tolerating mental poverty, when you stop entertaining weak conversations, when you stop making excuses that sound like reasons, everything changes. You'll start walking different, talking different, making decisions that confuse the people who still think you're who you used to be. Let them be confused. You didn't come here to be understood. You came here to evolve. Let them stare. Let them gossip. Let them say you've changed, because if they're not saying that, you're not growing fast enough. This next chapter of your life requires new wiring, new routines, new environments, new standards. Because the identity that created your current life is not the identity that will unlock the next one. If you keep thinking the same, you'll keep earning the same. If you keep reacting the same, you'll keep suffering the same. That's not fate. That's physics. See, life will always give you two choices: comfort or growth, security or significance, familiarity or freedom. And the mentally poor? They choose comfort every time. They choose ease, even if it means living on their knees. They settle for crumbs just to avoid the discomfort of becoming. But the mentally wealthy, they choose the storm. They choose the fire. They choose the uncertainty because they know that's where power is forged. You can't grow muscles without resistance. You can't grow wealth without tension. And you can't grow as a human being by staying the same. You must become the storm you once feared. Look at the legends, every single one. Oprah didn't come from royalty. She came from trauma, poverty, rejection. But she didn't let her environment dictate her evolution. She rewired her mind. She turned her pain into purpose. She outgrew the mold they tried to cast her in. And that's the game. Not getting more money. Not chasing more status. But becoming so aligned with your future that your past no longer feels like home. Some of you are still trying to win in the arena while carrying the weight of who you used to be. Still fighting for a future while dragging along habits that scream mediocrity. Let them go. Let go of the idea that you're too late. Let go of the belief that you're not smart enough. Let go of the guilt you carry for wanting more than your family ever did. Because wanting more is not greed. Wanting more is gratitude in motion. It's saying, "Thank you for what I have, and now I will honor it by building even more." But don't expect applause. Don't expect understanding. Don't expect the world to throw you a parade for choosing growth. It won't. You'll be tested, mocked, ignored, tempted to quit. But that's how you know you're on the right path. Because the old you will resist with everything it has. And every time you choose discipline over dopamine, every time you choose solitude over distraction, every time you choose courage over comfort, you get richer. Not just in money, but in character. And eventually, money begins to chase you. Opportunities begin to open. The right people begin to appear, not because they changed, but because you did. See, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. And when you start living, breathing, thinking, and acting like a mentally wealthy person, life responds. It must. Because energy doesn't lie. You can fake motivation. You can fake effort. You can even fake confidence. But you cannot fake frequency. You either vibrate on the level of abundance, or you don't. You either operate like the person who belongs in the room, or you'll always feel like an outsider. And it has nothing to do with where you came from. Jay-Z came from the projects. Howard Schultz, the former CEO of Starbucks, grew up in a housing complex for the poor. Damon John worked at Red Lobster while launching FUBU from his mother's house. They didn't wait to be chosen. They didn't wait for conditions to be perfect. They chose themselves. And you must do the same. Because the war is not on your bank account. The war is on your mind. And if you lose that battle, if you keep feeding your brain the poison of doubt, laziness, victimhood, entitlement, you will never taste wealth. Not real wealth. Not the kind that expands your soul and breaks generational chains. So stop asking for handouts. Stop begging for shortcuts. Stop looking for someone to lift you out of your life like a rescue mission. You're not lost. You're not cursed. You're not broken. You're asleep. Asleep in a dream someone else sold you. A dream where you're ordinary. A dream where you work, pay bills, and die quietly. A dream where the fire in your chest gets extinguished by fear, by debt, by small talk and small goals. But now you wake up. Because the real wealth is awareness. The moment you realize that you are the only barrier. Not your job. Not your city. Not your circumstances. You. And that's not an insult, it's liberation. Because if you're the problem, you're also the solution. You want to become rich? Then become rich in thought. Rich in habits. Rich in decision making. Rich in courage. That's how it begins. Not in your wallet, but in your will. The will to turn off distractions. The will to study the books no one around you is reading. The will to wake up when it still hurts. The will to invest in yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. The mentally poor spend their last dollars trying to look rich. The mentally wealthy spend their last minutes trying to become rich in mastery, in discipline, in service, in skill. So choose. This moment right now is your fork in the road. Will you keep feeding the same identity that's kept you broke? Or will you tear down the old story, brick by brick, and build a new one? The old story says, I never had a chance. The new one says, I will create one. The old story says, people like me don't get rich. The new one says, people like me become the example. The old story says, I've already failed too much. The new one says, every failure was tuition for my rise. You are not the same person who started listening to this. You've remembered something ancient, something primal, something real. The fire in your bones. The vision in your heart. The refusal to let the world write your ending. And no, it won't be easy. But you weren't born for easy. You were born for impact.